What is going on, everybody? It is Friday, November 14th, and I'm super stoked to do another full review of a movie that I have been anticipating for quite some time. That movie this week is The Running Man. Once again, guys, I'm Box Office Ricky, and I figure out whether or not a movie is worth checking out in theaters or not. So let's quickly dive in and talk about a little bit of The Running Man, the synopsis of it, before we jump into my review. But here's a kind of a Google synopsis, which I like using Google because it kind of gives me a more of a bigger synopsis, but condensed as well. But check this out. So, The Running Man in the near future, The Running Man is a top-rated show on television, a deadly competition where contestants must survive 30 days while being hunted by professional assassins. Desperate for money to save his sick daughter, Ben Richards is convinced by the show's ruthless producer to enter the game as a last resort. Ratings soon skyrocket as Ben's defiance, instincts, and grit turn him into an unexpected fan favorite, as well as a threat to the entire system. So, one thing, if you don't know, there's two things here. This is a Stephen King book. I'm not sure when exactly it was written, but it was written probably back in the 70s or 80s. And this, for the younger generation, if you guys don't know, this was originally a 1987 Arnold Schwarzenegger action film. So, real quick off the top of it, just off the top, this is an action film too as well, but I think there's a little bit, the difference is, 80s action movies with Arnold Schwarzenegger were a lot more bam, bam, direct action and somewhat story. This kind of, I think, expands a lot more, probably expands a little bit more of the book. I actually have not read the Stephen King book, to be honest, but anyway, let's just dive in. And here, here's a quick little clip
between life and death. Give you a lift.
This is definitely
Arnold Schwarzenegger is.
It also had a lot of that sci-fi that I loved. If you've ever seen Total Recall, if you've seen anything with Arnold Schwarzenegger from the 80s, there was just such an element of, yes, these were adult, bloody action film movies, but as a kid, there was some sort of a layer of cool sci-fi that, definitely, stuck with me, especially like, Running Man sticks with me, obviously, but Total Recall also sticks with me as well. So let's go ahead and dive into the new version, the 2025 version. This one actually is directed by Edgar Wright, and if you don't know, Edgar Wright has definitely, freaking directed some bangers. He's the Shaun of the Dead guy. He's the Last Night in Soho, Baby Driver. I'm looking at his list right quick, just so you guys can kind of see. But we've got just a ton of movies that he's been a part of. Hot Fuzz. So here's a big one, Scott Pilgrim versus the World. There is a lot of Scott Pilgrim of the World connection here, which I'll get to later in spoilers. But so here is my overall thought of this movie. I generally enjoyed the film tremendously. I thought, just like the wonderment that I got from watching the 1987, original, and also a lot of the, 80s sci-fi action films, there is a lot here that I feel like the film is doing really well, that it sort of reminds me of my childhood of feeling that wonderment. And I really enjoyed just the first half of the film, let's say. I think there is I don't know if allegory is the right word, or metaphor, or, I'm probably butchering that, but there is definitely like a parallel that's happening with our current world here in the film that the film showcases. And it's really there's this story of like the have and have-nots, and how the haves are getting richer and the have-nots are getting more and more put up against the wall, and the haves are blaming the have-nots for not being able to lift themselves up. But it's really hard to lift yourself up when the haves are constantly putting the thumb down on the have-nots and making it a lot harder for the have-nots to rise above. And I think that's a very, not trying to get political here, but that is a very relatable story, I think, to what's going on in our current world. I think, it is harder to be a middle-class person trying to rise above. And I'm not saying it's impossible. I think we live in America. We have infinite possibilities. So yeah, you can absolutely rise above. But the challenges are there, and it is a little bit harder. And I think this film does a good job of making you think about that and compare about that. Now, let me kind of go into the second half of the film. To me, the second half of the film, I feel like, is where things sort of fall apart. One thing I'll point out is this movie feels it's 2 hours and 15 minutes. I took my family to go see this movie. The movie time was 7 o'clock. Literally, there was like 15 minutes of just commercials, like local commercials, commercials for Skittles, commercials for soda, whatever. Then after 15 minutes of that, there's 20 minutes of trailers. So my showtime of Running Man didn't kick off until about 7:35, even though the showing says 7 o'clock. So where that's frustrating is the movie is 2 hours and 15 minutes long. I think there is opportunity for this film to be an hour and 50 minutes and get its point across perfectly fine. 2 hour and 50 minutes, by the end of the movie, I'm looking at my watch and I'm sort of like, oh my God, like it's about to be 10 o'clock. I've had a long day. I'm a little bit under the weather. And I just we get the point, just kind of wrap it up for me. Thank you. So I will say the movie does feel a little bit long towards the end. And, I sort of, the second part to that being long is I sort of kind of lose track about what the film is about. I think it kind of loses its core message towards the end. And then here's my other criticism of the movie. Like I said, I enjoyed the film. Here's kind of where this is kind of where I feel like the movie could have been just incrementally better. And it comes down to really Glenn Powell. I feel like Glenn Powell is being shoved down our throats to be a superstar. Hollywood is really, really pushing hard for Glenn Powell to be the next Tom Cruise. And I like it. I think overall I like Glenn Powell. I mean, I think he's got a very charismatic face. He's got a great physique. He's, looks great on camera. But where I think the film is kind of like doesn't do it for me is I don't think he has like the charisma that maybe a Tom Cruise might have or a Denzel Washington. And I just feel like he's constantly being shoved down our throats to be like the next big Hollywood star. And I've seen him in several movies at this point, and I don't know. Like I said, he's got a great look. He's got a great persona, but I just don't think he has the charisma that I'm looking for in an action star. And I think they are really, really trying to, shove him down our throats. I've seen him in other stuff. I've seen him in that Dazed and Confused follow-up where he was a baseball movie. That's probably the first time I've seen the movie. He did great in that, but like I said, I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments if if you think Glenn Powell is the real deal, or if you think maybe he's just okay to you, and maybe also too, do you think another actor probably would have been a lot better in this film? So I'm curious what you think. Let me know. And also what other actor you would think would be good for that as well, or good for this Running Man movie. So real quick, before I wrap up here, let's actually dive into some of the box office. We've got a lot of box office competition coming up this week. We have obviously The Running Man, and we have also Now You See Me, the third movie. And so I'm curious what's going to happen with box office numbers with The Running Man. To be honest, I saw this movie last night, and I think the attendance was pretty low in my theater. I saw this at a Cinemark XD, and there was probably, including myself and my family and maybe a handful of other people, there was probably 8 people in a theater of about 120 people. Now, that could be just because it's Thursday night. There's a lot of things going on. But overall, I really did not see a drove of people to go see this movie, not like Predator Badlands. And then also, too, you've got Now You See Me 3 coming out. And, you know, if they're making a third movie of that series, that probably tells me that there is an audience already there that exists. And, yeah. So real quick, sorry, I lost my train of thought. A little bit of ADHD today. So real quick, one thing I wanted to point out too, like I said, this is a Stephen King adaptation, and oh my goodness, guys, there have been several Stephen King adaptations this year, okay, in this previous year. So in 2024, we had Salem's Lot, Life of Chuck. Let me just roll off some of the movies that have come out that are Stephen King related, okay? We have The Monkey, Life of Chuck, The Long Walk, The Running Man, The Institute. These are not TV shows. Welcome to Derry. And look at, coming up in 2026, we have several other movies that are going to be Stephen King adaptations. Carrie, Christine, The Dark Tower, Fairy Tale, Sleeping Beauties, and The Boogeyman. Now, the reason why I bring this up is it does feel like history is repeating itself. In the 80s, there was not a year that probably did not go, that didn't happen without a Stephen King adaptation. And we are seeing that mining again with Stephen King material. I think Hollywood is definitely in a dry spell to where they're looking back and they're looking at a lot of Stephen King material and mining it, which is great. I mean, I like Stephen King, but I just wanted to point that out, that it's almost like there's a resurgence, it's a renaissance of Stephen King again, and we are seeing it loud and clear. And, you know, honestly, like I said, I really enjoy Stephen King. I would love to see maybe a rehash of Stand By Me and a few of his other films. But yeah, I just wanted to point that out. Let me know what you guys think, what Stephen King adaptation you would like to see come back to life. Okay, so that is it that I have, guys. Now it's time for my final verdict. This is whether or not to go see this movie in theaters or not, okay? And to be honest, my verdict is yes. I would say go see this movie in the theater. It is a fun time in the theater. The only downside is it's a little bit long, but I think it's one of those movies that the special effects are amazing, the sound design, what you're seeing in front of you is awesome. It is constantly moving and moving and moving. You might get a little bit exhausted at the end, but it's worth it. It's nice to just turn off your phone for 2 hours, 3 hours, and just veg out to a movie that seems like it's just freaking entertaining. Okay, so once again, guys, I'm Box Office Ricky. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, and I will sign off like I always say, in a world where you can be anything, why not be kind to each other? Thank you guys so much. You guys have a great weekend. Oh, by the way, look out for my box office report Sunday night. Thank you.